Now we go back to cinema. We are going to talk about September 5 or September 5th, or as my Excel spreadsheet has changed this to SEP-05. When I typed it in, immediately went, no, you're trying to put it. No, it's a film title. Oh, so this film is.
Yeah.
Sorry, what was that?
No, I was just saying, no, you want to say to the screen, just leave it.
Yeah,
I type what I type.
let me type my nonsense. It reminds me of my mum when my mum first got a phone that could do autocorrect, and she was trying to type all this stuff because obviously we use English very different in Nigeria, very differently in Nigeria, and she was typing it and it kept correcting what she was typing. She was like, "No, let me type my nonsense." she kept saying. She kept saying that to her phone. Anyway, so this film is set in the Munich during the Munich Olympics of 1972. I think it was 1972, and this is it's one of these things that I wasn't alive when it happened, but I heard about it afterwards, and it was how there was an attack by a group called Black September on the Israeli it was an attack of a group of Black September who were standing for Palestinian rights, and it was an attack on the Israeli Olympic team in the Olympic Village in Munich during the Olympics. And this film is all about the broadcast of that. So the film is almost like a chamber piece. It's one of these films that's a little bit like almost like a play. It is very much like, it reminded me a lot of, do you remember Good Night and Good Luck?
Yes.
It reminded me a lot of Good Night and Good Luck
I like that.
it's yeah, no, Good Night and Good Luck. I think it's a great film. It's not the film I thought it was going to be when I started watching, and it's a bit, yeah, because I was kind of like, okay, cool, what's going to happen with this? I'm talking about Good Night and Good Luck here. You know, you start watching that film, and then after a while you realize, oh, they're not leaving the studio. We're just not going to leave the studio, and it's a bit similar with this. But I think having seen Good Night and Good Luck, I was kind of a bit prepared for what this is. And it kicks off, and you start seeing what's happening at the Munich Olympics, and seeing all these different people. You get the idea of what's going on, of what having the Olympics in Germany means to the German. To the German people and the German economy. There's one particular character called Marianne, who is a German working for ABC, because this is the American broadcasters, ABC, and she's working for them as a translator. And you can see that you start. And one thing the film does very, very well is showing you how the different factions that they were, because there were people who would have been alive during the Second World War who were still here. There's an old sort of techie guy who has to do with different cables, and he has a little bit of, you can see there's a little bit of like, xenophobia as to who he gives a cable to and who he doesn't give a cable to, and how she goes up to him and she's like, look, the whole eyes, and you can see that she's quite idealistic, saying the whole eyes of the world are on Germany. This is a chance to actually show the world that, like, that we're rebuilding, that we're better, that we're not what people think we are. And you can see that that's the way she sees it. And then you have that, and then you have, obviously, in the Americans, there's Americans and there's Jewish Americans who are working on this, and how they feel about being in Germany, broadcasting this thing, and that is all set up, and it's all, well, I think it's all lovely. There's even a French character who is half Arab, who is and you have all this stuff set up, and then the attack happens. The attack happens. The way the attack, they do a thing which I think is a brilliant choice. They don't show the attack. Everything is shown from the point of view of the people in the studio. They hear gunshots and they go, "Are those gunshots?" And the older German dude is like, "I'm old enough to remember what gunshots are. Those are gunshots." And the other ones are like, maybe they're just firecrackers or anything like that. Then they start getting, like, phone calls coming through from different people saying, "Hey, have you heard this? Have you heard this?" And then they start asking around, "Did you hear gunshots?" It's like, "Oh my God, it was gunshots. Where do you think it was?" We think it was in the Olympic Village. And little by little, because this is a pre-internet age, I love the way this film is put together, in that they show you how people gathered information before they could just go into their phone, and there were like 15 different people filming the thing on their phone straight away. And it's like how this person goes out there, and this person uses this walkie-talkie, and this person uses this phone, and the ingenuity that had to happen, and the sort of like seat of your pants thing that had to happen. And so for somebody who does videos, and so for someone who does, I found the way that they went around putting this thing, I found it absolutely fascinating how they sort of like hack a phone to make sure that somebody can speak on the phone and they can go out onto the airwaves, and how they have to move a camera that is so heavy, and just so for me, as a bit of as a film, like, as a video making geek, the way they went about doing things, when they went about putting captions on the screen, the way that they had to bring everybody together, I loved that. I absolutely loved that. I thought it was brilliant. I thought, oh my God, this is this is. I was like, it almost makes you start going, I feel nostalgic for a time that I never saw and I never will see. Imagine if it was like this again. So that bit was fine, but then they have this, but by focusing on that, they sort of do this, I think, a very, very clever thing. And the way it came across to me was that it becomes a conundrum. It becomes a conundrum because these people are focused on, excuse me, what they're focused on is they're focused on doing a broadcast. They're focused on doing a broadcast, and because they're a sports team, they have this thing where the news team in America are trying to take it off their hands, saying, this is news. You guys are sports. You can't do this. And they're like, get away, screw you. We're like 100 yards from where this is happening. We're keeping this. And it's about how they sort of like, how they do it, and then they start having to sort of wrestle with the ethics of news reporting, which they're not used to. Things like, what do we call them? Do we call them terrorists? Do we go? It's like, what word do we use? And there's one guy there, Pete Jennings, who did a lot of the reporting from inside the Olympic Village, who is telling them like, okay, look, this, you guys don't understand this, but I've been in the Middle East for a while. These are the different things that come up. There's one particular bit, which is almost kind of like, because a lot of it is people looking at screens, but there's a bit where they realize that the broadcast that they are putting out live, because they're the only ones who are broadcasting live throughout the whole thing, the broadcast that they're putting out live and the pictures they're putting out live can actually be watched within the Olympic Village. So everything, like what the police are trying to do on the outside to go in there and liberate the people, is being broadcast inside the Olympic Village where the hostages are, and they're like, oh my God. And
we're feeding information to the
exactly, and then it's all about that, and it's about, okay, and there's a bit where they sit down and they hang on. It's like, hang on, was that our fault? Did we make that happen? Did that go on? And you can see them wrestling with it. And if you know your history, I didn't. I do not know this conflict that well. I do not know this incident that well. I didn't know how it ended. I did not know how it ended. So the way, and if you don't know how it ended before you're watching the film, I would recommend that you don't go and find out. You don't go on Wikipedia it. I know Sharon, you probably know how it ended. I mean, Holly, you're well read. You probably know how it ended. I didn't know how it ended, and it's.
I'm not sure I do remember. I knew one, but I don't think I could tell you now. No.
Yeah, and because it's not a straightforward thing. It's just not a straightforward thing, and the way it goes, and even the way the film ends, and all that, it's just kind of like there is this. The film ends with this almost kind of like, that was horrible, that was terrible, but hey, guess what? Life moves on. And it's especially when you are in broadcast, because the Olympics are still here. There's still stuff happening today. And it's kind of like, so what are we doing tomorrow? And it's not as flippant as I'm making that sounding, but there is, and I think that's one of the good things about this film, is that it doesn't try and make any big statements. It just focuses on the job that people had to do. And then you are left to think about all these other implications of the job that they had to do. And maybe almost even what you would have done in that situation, what was the right thing to do? And I thought it was quite good, especially when you think about world issues at the moment. I thought it was a very well done film. I think that there's great discussions between Peter Sarsgaard, Ben Chaplin, Josh Magaro. I just thought it was a very good film. I'll give it a 4 out of 5, and I would recommend that you go see it. And I think it would make a very, very good double bill with Good Night and Good Luck.